When I found my father shivering inside his half-frozen $750,000 log cabin during a brutal Wyoming winter, I honestly thought he'd had a heart attack. Turns out, he was alive and pissed because Tricia, the president of the local HOA, had the power to cut off his generator in -10-degree weather, and she did. Her reason? She didn't like how it sounded. What she didn't know, and what made this entire fiasco so laughably poetic, was that my dad, Victor Harper, literally wrote the energy regulations for most of the regional grid. This was his turf. She just didn't know it yet. I still remember looking at him and saying, "You want to make an example?" He smiled real slow and said, "Hold my coffee." Now, have you ever walked into a scene so absurd, so deeply ridiculous, you think maybe you're hallucinating? That was me. My boots crunched through the snow as I tried to understand why the $1 million hunting lodge I'd visited every winter of my childhood now looked like the opening shot of a true crime documentary. No smoke rising from the chimney. No lights. Just thick frost coating the windows, creeping like icy fingers. Inside, Dad sat bundled in 3 sleeping bags, sipping from a dented thermos like some kind of chill Zen hermit who'd either given up on life or was plotting a corporate coup. I stomped snow off my boots and barged in. "Dad? What the hell?" He looked up like I just walked in from brunch. "Hey, kiddo." Tricia shut off the generator. I blinked. "Tricia? The HOA lady from the eco-village down the hill?" "Yup." Said it was disrupting the serenity of the shared environment. Filed a petition with the power company. They shut it off yesterday. Let me pause and explain something. When my dad says filed a petition, he's being incredibly generous. What Tricia did was twist a minor clause meant for urban noise disputes and apply it to a cabin in the middle of nowhere. She'd been flying her drone around the forest for weeks under the guise of community safety enforcement. In reality, she was looking for anything she could weaponize. And she found it. It took me 15 seconds to go from worried daughter to petty revenge goblin. My dad is one of the most laid-back people you'll ever meet. But even he looked like he was one minor inconvenience away from flipping someone's luxury SUV into a snowbank. Here's what made it hilarious. My dad isn't just some off-grid hobbyist. He's a senior regulatory consultant for the Regional Energy Authority. He helped write the protocols that govern emergency response and grid compliance. Every utility company in a 5-county radius checks their decisions against his standards. Cutting his generator because of a drone video wasn't just dumb, it was practically an invitation to be made into a case study. I plopped down on the couch, shaking my head. So, let me get this straight. This woman convinced a power company to cut off your generator in a storm based on a drone video and a complaint about what? Noise pollution. She said the sound was disturbing migratory birds. He said, deadpan. Haven't seen a bird in a week. I laughed out of pure disbelief. You're letting her get away with this? He leaned back, gave me that signature Harper smirk, and said, "No, but it has to be clean, professional, and humiliating." That glint in his eye, that was the moment I knew she'd messed with the wrong man. We spent the rest of the evening getting the cabin warm again. I dragged out a backup propane heater from the garage and we boiled snow for tea like rugged pioneers, just with Wi-Fi and a satellite phone. And the more I learned, the more ridiculous it got. Tricia had only moved into her eco-friendly, solar-powered smart cabin about 6 months earlier. The development she lived in was pitched as a sustainable living utopia. But Tricia? She wanted to turn the woods into her own HOA-ruled suburbia. Within weeks of moving in, she declared herself president of a self-made environmental oversight board and started harassing other cabin owners to sign some fake community charter. Most ignored her. A few gave in just to shut her up. My dad politely told her to kick rocks. Apparently, she took that personally. She filed a complaint alleging his generator was too loud, emitting fumes, and disturbing local wildlife. Her evidence? A shaky drone video and a PDF from a sketchy noise monitoring app. Even more absurd? The clause she used to shut off the generator was intended for real emergencies like gas leaks or active fires. And it only works if it's backed by certified environmental documentation. Tricia had none. Just a drone and an overinflated sense of authority. I asked my dad why the power company didn't check first. They're legally required to act on emergency claims. They assumed it was real. They'll regret that assumption soon. Over freeze-dried chili and camping stove bread, he laid out a plan, not dramatic, not explosive. Just thorough. Procedural. Devastating. She thinks she has power, he said, sipping tea. I'm going to remind her where it actually comes from. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was cold, but because I was buzzing with anticipation. I'd seen HOA horror stories online, but now I was in one and we were about to turn the tables. Around 2 a.m., I got up to use the bathroom and spotted movement outside. At first, I thought it was shifting snow until I heard it. A faint mechanical bzz. Peeking through the door crack, I saw it. Her drone. Hovering again. This time with the lights dimmed, trying to be sneaky. She wasn't done. The next morning, Dad handed me a mug of reheated coffee and asked, "You still know how to keep a straight face in a meeting?" I blinked. Define meeting. HOA emergency session. Down at the lodge. Sounds like something a concerned citizen like you should attend. So that's how I found myself brushing snow off my jacket, slipping into my boots, and heading straight into enemy territory. The lodge was a modern monstrosity, glass walls, reclaimed wood, solar panels everywhere. Inside, it was bright and warm, filled with people who looked like they'd never chopped firewood in their lives. Bamboo coffee cups, artisan scarves. The kind of folks who say namaste before calling the cops. At the front, like some smug queen bee, was Trisha. She greeted me with a sticky sweet smile. "You must be new to our community engagement sessions." I introduced myself as a concerned visitor just here to support my father, who owned a nearby cabin. Her eyes twitched slightly. "Ah, the gentleman with the rather loud generator." She launched into a presentation about sound neutrality, visual harmony, and my personal favorite, the psychological effects of fossil fuel odors on snowshoe hares. I asked a single question: what enforcement power does your HOA have over cabins that aren't part of your charter? She kept her face smooth, but the room got 10 degrees colder. "Well, we've developed partnerships with local providers. We use data petitions entirely legal. Translation: we harass companies with enough fake documentation to get them to fold." After the meeting, I talked to a few other residents. One man told me Trisha had their neighborhood removed from priority repair status during a recent Udajito, preserve grid balance. That sounded suspiciously like something my dad would have had to approve. Another woman had been fined for unlicensed winter traffic noise on her snowmobile. Back at the cabin, I called Dad. He was already digging through compliance records. The form Trisha filed to cut his generator? Total joke. Fake decibel readings. No inspection. A drone video labeled as certified data. It was enough to trigger a review. But we weren't stopping there. I started collecting witness statements. Dad rewrote the emergency compliance policy. From now on, any power shutoff request needed certified environmental testingo more app screenshots. He submitted a retroactive audit for the past 6 months. Every one of Trisha's complaints? Flagged. Strike 1. Strike 2 came when I had a zoning friend pull HOA records. The eco-village had filed multiple sketchy amendments, some backdated, others missing signatures. Strike 3? FAA. See, after another drone flyover, Dad calmly stepped outside with his shotgun and fired a single warning shot into the sky. The drone fled. We filed a report with the FAA on registered drone, low altitude, surveillance without consent. By the end of the week, Trisha's world was unraveling. Utilities suspended all her complaints. Cabin owners got their power back. One guy even gave my dad elk jerky in thanks. Trisha didn't go quietly. She blasted out an email titled "Noise Terrorism and the Return of Chaos, Warning of Eco-Bullies." It read like bad fanfic. Then came the drone's final flight hovering above a shooting range. One clean shot. Boom. Done. Trisha screamed about civil liberties, but this time the FAA took notice. The audit results came in. Trisha had submitted over 20 fraudulent complaints, copy-pasted data, timestamps that didn't match. One even claimed noise from a generator that hadn't been online in weeks. She was stripped of her fake consultant title. The HOA board removed her as president in an 8-1 vote. Guess who the one was? Civil suits followed. Her influence? Gone. But it wasn't over. The State Energy Division contacted my dad. They were opening a broader investigation. Turns out Trisha had been giving talks, selling her methods. Other HOAs were mimicking her. My dad? They wanted him to testify. So he did. He walked into the hearing like a professor presenting a masterclass. Every lie, every violation, every fake form documented. The board didn't need convincing. Trisha had become the poster child for eco-authoritarian nonsense. And then the storm hit. Literal, not metaphorical. Snow, wind, downed lines. Her eco-village? Downgraded from priority status. No quick repairs. Her solar battery? Lasted 6 hours. No backup generator. No heat. Her paradise froze. Meanwhile, we were warm, cozy, and sipping coffee. I made pancakes. Dad read the paper. Peace had returned. The local news ran the story. They didn't name her. They didn't have to. The final letter came a week later from a cabin owner she tried to bully. Inside was a thank you card. Handwritten. A $20 diner gift card tucked in. Thanks for standing up, it read, when the rest of us were too tired to deal with her. Now, when people ask about the shotgun mounted above the fireplace and the tub labeled FAA evidence next to the firewood, we just smile. Long story, we say. But trust us, she earned every second of it.